think the stigma is definitely one of the things that Rec to Recs need to overcome. Just because, again, when you're going into those candidate conversations and even going into the client conversations as well, like often I'll speak to prospect clients and they'll say, "Oh, I've worked with Rec to Recs in the past and don't like you guys, to be completely honest." And I'm like, look, I get it. Like, there are some bad Rec to Recs out there, so I'm not surprised.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Recruitment Podcast by Recruit CRM. It's me again, your host, Kate O'Neill. I'm back bringing you more candid conversations with some of the most insightful voices in the recruitment world. So today we're diving into a completely different topic, and actually one I rarely see explored by anyone else on podcasts or anything sort of recruitment chat related, and we're going into Rec to Rec. Now, I'm excited to speak to this person because I've recently delved into the world of Rec to Rec myself. I've set up my own agency, so I'm really excited about this one today. It's an industry that I think some people are shocked even exists. When I talk to people about recruitment companies recruiting for recruitment companies, they sometimes look a bit baffled, but it does exist and it's a really important part of our market. And this year, 2025, lots of big opportunities to come out of this year for Rec to Recs as well. So joining me is AJ Reid.
Thank you for the intro. I loved it. And yeah, equanimity search, you said it spot on. Thank you for that. Not a lot of people actually get it as well, honestly. Sometimes people are like, equa, what? But yeah,
that was me in the warm-up practicing.
But yeah, I guess a bit about myself. I had a few years worth of sales experience before I got myself into the world of recruitment and fell into it like I guess a lot of people do. I guess prior to that as well, I've got a sporting background. I was a competitive martial artist, fought in MMA, competed in wrestling, freestyle wrestling, jiu-jitsu, the full lot really. But I guess it's all led to where I am today, and I'm running Equanimity Search along with my co-founder. And yeah, I guess that's a bit about me.
Yeah, I think a lot of us in the recruitment world are quite sporty or like anything, I think, competitive and challenging. So yeah, I can relate to that. I haven't done martial arts, but always been involved in sport. And I know a lot of people, especially when you get to sort of founder level, like we both are, you start speaking to people and they're into some sort of crazy sport or fitness or something competitive. So yeah, it kind of, I think it massively comes into like stress relief, how we manage our moods, and yeah, just feeling good day to day. So that is no surprise to me that you're involved in all of that. Talking about today's topic, Rec to Rec is to some people quite a unique niche. Like I said before, a lot of people are like baffled that it even exists. And I think whether you work in Rec to Rec or not, you've all had some experience, whether that's good, bad, ugly, of dealing with people that work in this part of our sector. And that is what we're going to explore today in our conversation. So I'm going to go into my first question because I know we've got a lot to cover today. Rec to Rec has often been described as sort of recruitment on steroids, right? So to you, like, what makes it different to other types of recruitment?
I guess there's a few reasons why it's different, right? First of all, Rec to Recs, we've got the worst stigma. Like, recruiters in general have a bad stigma. Rec to Recs especially, like we're hated. Like me and you, Kate, we're hated.
I know.
I guess for obvious reasons as well. There's been a lot of shoddy work that's been done in Rec to Recs, so that's I guess one of the reasons. Like we are like we stand out like a sore thumb. And I guess on the flip side, I guess there's some benefits. Like when it comes to doing BD in the Rec to Rec space, it is a lot easier. But like I mentioned a moment ago, like because we have got such a bad stigma, sometimes it's hard to build those relationships with the candidates. So yeah, it's got things that are good about it. It's got things that are bad about it. And I'm sure we'll discuss that in more detail.
Yeah, and I've always found it like crazy because like you say, that there's that reputation, okay, and recruitment in general, people have some really negative perceptions of it, which I don't agree with. I know we know how much value we do bring to the economy, but there's something about rec to rec that has that extra sort of negative perception. And when you think about it, it's crazy because we're recruiting for an industry that should know how to recruit, and we should know how to recruit. But like you said, there's so many shoddy practices. So we are going to go into that, but I wanted to start on a positive to ask you, what do you see done really, really well in the rec to rec world?
I think good placements where people aren't shoving this square pegs into the round holes. Like often, especially when the market goes a little bit tough, like we all experienced the post-COVID boom when things were great and you could teach a monkey how to make a placement and everyone was making placements and we were all buzzing. But then when the market
Good
dips a
times.
little bit, great times, take us back. But I think I guess when the market shifted a little bit, what we've seen is that yeah, a lot of people have tried to just force deals in anyhow. And what that then has done has kind of left people frustrated, like candidates frustrated. However, on the flip side, that's where I guess the good recruitment comes into place, right? That's where people or these recruiters are placing people into the right roles that are actually suitable for themselves, doing good work. So I think that's an example of good practice, really.
So actually capitalizing on some of the shoddy stuff that has happened, creating opportunity and good out of it, basically. It gives you, I suppose it helps you shine, doesn't it, when you're um, kind of bringing people out of a negative experience?
Hell yeah, hell yeah. It's just about going that one step further, trying to fully understanding the candidate, fully understanding the client, going that one step further, asking, just being super curious, just asking those questions.
Yeah.
After question, follow-up question. As long as you can find out as much information as you possibly can just about what the candidates obviously pain points are, what they're looking for in the future, what previous experiences that they've had that they've loved, and equally the ones that they've hated, then you can kind of like match them up really, really well with the ideal role for the future, really. So I think it just comes down to building that relationship, fully understanding who you're working with, and I guess just qualifying people properly.
Yeah, which actually for any consultant, whether you're rec to rec or not, should be done and done properly. So we started with the good. Let's move on to the bad. So, what have been some of the biggest challenges for rec to rec professionals, do you think? What have been some of the biggest challenges they've had to face?
It's a great question. It's a great question, Kate. I think the stigma is definitely one of the things that rec to recs need to overcome. Just because, again, when you're going into those candidate conversations and even going into the client conversations as well, like often I'll speak to prospect clients and they'll say, "Oh, I've worked with rec to recs in the past and don't like you guys, to be completely honest." And I'm like, look, I get it. Like there are some bad rec to recs out there, so I'm not surprised. So initially, you have to overcome that trust element there. You need to give them you need to provide your credibility. You need to give them a solid, I guess, understanding of what you can actually deliver at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And equally, it goes the same when it comes to the candidates as well. I often speak to candidates and candidates will just say, I spoke to this rec to rec and I spoke to that rec to rec. I once went through a process with a rec to rec and he gave me a bad experience. And it's usually
Yeah.
the same sort of things, really. So I think the stigma is usually the biggest challenge rec to recs face, just operating just in general.
Yeah. Because I suppose on both candidate and client sides, like you said, before that trust is even there, you've got to almost show. I mean, you can say as much as you want that you're different, but it's showing them a lot of the time, and it's getting them to see, look, I'm not like the person you dealt with before or the agency that you dealt with before. So, yeah, I can totally get that, and I think that's something that I'm going to be experiencing myself is that stigma. Let's get to the ugly then, because I know you've got some stories, or at least one story to share with us around this. So, and I've had my own experiences as well. So, right, where do you see it go wrong with rec to rec? What are people doing out there that is just, we've used the word shoddy, right? What have you been seeing out there?
I guess it happened today, to be fair. It happens a lot. I'd say it might happen to me specifically once a quarter, where another rec to rec will reach out to me with a role. And I'm like, do you not see what I'm doing? Have you not been onto my profile? Are you not doing your job properly? Like, you're wasting time. You're wasting people's time. And again, you're giving yourself a bad name. You're giving the other rec to recs out there a bad name as well. But yeah, literally, I had another rec to rec reach out to me, and surprisingly, he's a senior recruitment consultant. So you'd think that he would just go into my profile and see.
It takes 2 seconds.
Takes 2 seconds. Like, what's wrong with some people? I don't get it. Like, they'll save themselves time as well. Like I think about it, if these people are reaching out to 100 people, how many of those people that like they just didn't need to reach out to? They could have been a lot more efficient by just going onto people's profiles, checking them out, actually doing their research before reaching out to the person. But yeah, today I had a senior recruitment consultant reach out to me, and he was like, AJ, hey AJ, I work with some investors, and they're supporting people, experienced recruiters launching their recruitment businesses. Would you be interested in a conversation? I'm like, bro, like, I do the same.
Look, that's my profile.
I've already launched my business, and as well as that, I also work with investors too. But I guess
honestly,
I always have the same sort of daft remarks. I always reply to them in the same ways. I'm always like, okay, so just to save some time, I've had some conversations recently. Like, do you want to tell me who the client is? Just to, I guess, get that lead, because it's
maybe a lead. I was going to say, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm a little bit cheeky like that sometimes.
I like to play along sometimes as well. So I've had a couple recently. So I had one, and he messaged me. He was like, "I've got this perfect opportunity for you, absolutely perfect with a client." For a recruitment consultant. I can't remember the rest of the message. And actually, I was like, hold on a minute. I would be at least a manager now if I went back and got employed. Do you know what the funny thing about this was? Is that it was on the day that I launched my agency.
Oh.
The post was out there. It was on my profile. I changed my headline. So I just replied and said, have you actually read my profile? And believe it or not, he actually said, no, I haven't. So I was like, well, if you just have a read, and I think then you'll realise why I'm not right for what you're looking for. And I used to get a couple, I think they were based abroad, but they would approach me about like part-time recruitment consultant roles. And I was like, well, I've got a recruitment coaching business. Yeah, it's fine. You can manage it around a full-time job. They just weren't getting it. So it's just a lack of attention to detail, really, isn't it?
It is. And I think this comes back down to another part being just a low barrier of entry, pretty much.
100%
to recruitment. Like I mentioned before as well, when times are good, a lot of recruitment agencies end up hiring anyone. And like I said, you could teach a monkey how to make a placement back in the post-COVID boom. And yeah, when the market does get a little bit tough, where these people end up like leaving the industry, but they shouldn't have really been in it to begin with. So I think, yeah, it's down to, I guess, a low barrier to the entry. And as well as that, down to the training as well. Like, think about recruitment agencies, especially in comparison to every other industry in the world, how little training that we actually get.
It's actually awful, really.
It's so bad, especially considering how much we generate just in terms of like money towards the economy. Like, we should be trained a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Like, we should somehow get some sort of training put together and ensure that everyone's being trained sufficiently, so that these problems aren't happening. Like, people aren't wasting their time reaching out to people when all they need to do really is just check a LinkedIn profile. But I guess that's just one example, really. But it all comes down to the training, low barrier to entry. I guess these are some of the problems with recruitment, and it comes down to I guess it relates to the ugly side of recruitment, really.
So you've worked with recruiters at all levels, so anything from sort of trainees like myself right through to directors, so really senior positions. Kind of flipping now to kind of how you do things, how do you approach managing expectations on both sides of that level of experience?
Managing expectations in terms of what exactly?
So, I know, for example, when I'm dealing with trainees, they have no preconceived ideas, do they, of what the job is like, how quickly they'll get a position, what the interview, I've obviously got to brief them on the interview process, but I know you deal with trainees as well, but you're dealing with experience right up to director level. So they know, from their own work expectations, they might have higher standards, for example, or be really pernickety about things. I don't know. I don't deal with at that level. But how do you sort of manage the expectations with your candidates on all those different sort of levels of experience?
Well, yeah, I guess working with trainees and working with their experienced candidates are completely different. I think the more junior the people, so your senior cons, your rec cons, your associates, your trainees, they often haven't got a clue what they want, especially at that trainee level. Like they really just don't know what they want yet. They're still like figuring it all out for themselves. The more experienced the person, the more they understand what they want. So
Yeah.
with the trainees, as I'm sure you'll agree, they need a lot of hand holding, they need a lot of guidance, they need a lot of support. And again, the more experienced the person is, the less support that they typically need. That's what I find anyway. So I guess when it comes to just managing expectations, yeah, there isn't really hand holding needed for the experienced candidates out there. Your managers, your directors, they don't necessarily need that. They still need the support, like more often than not. Sometimes they might come to the interviews like not with the all of the figures that they might need, such as like maybe what the team was billing from when they first started managing the team to in comparison to what he was doing each year, and how the team might have like grew each year. Well, sometimes, yeah, you might need to point out a few things to them, but more often than not, they've already got that information anyway, so they know what they need to, I guess, regurgitate when it comes to the interview processes. So I guess all it is there is it's just about, I'd probably say you've just got to match them up, I guess, better in a way, just because with your trainees, like I said, they'll take anything. They don't know. The more junior people don't exactly know. They're still figuring it out. Whereas with your more experienced person, you can't necessarily you can't be wasting any time whatsoever. What they say that they want, you need to go out there and you need to go and source it. You need to find it. You can't go and give them a few things that might miss the brief in X, Y, or Z areas. You need to go out there and find exactly what they're looking for. And equally, if you can't find that, you need to put your hands up and say, look, at this moment in time, I've not managed to source you what you want. However, we can keep in touch for future reference. And that's how I guess, build my relationships as well, because you won't always have a role for somebody. Sometimes you need to put your hands up and you need to be honest with them. And I guess that's where all recruiters, well, not all, but a lot of recruiters out there will typically fall short as well, just by not touching base with the candidates that they brought to market.
Even with my trainees, like bearing in mind they have no, like you said, no expectations. So, apologies to anyone listening. I've got the worst sore throat, so I'm trying not to cough all the way through this podcast episode. Just by me catching up with them every other week, even if I haven't got any news, just to catch up, letting them know, no news, but how are you doing? Anything changed? All of this sort of stuff. They massively appreciate it, because other people they're dealing with, they don't hear from them. They have one chat, and unless something else comes up, they're like, oh, I haven't heard from them since. So I think, but yeah, like you were saying then, the more experience, they know what they want. There's, you could go to a training with most things, temp, contract, perm, different markets, as long as the location's right normally and the salary, they're kind of like, yeah, I'll go for it. Whereas, you're more experienced, they know, like you said, they know what they want. And it's just a bit of a more difficult job then, isn't it? Because you've got to kind of match that then.
Exactly.
So before we move on to some more questions, anyone has watched all the other episodes, you'll know that I always have to do a cheeky little Recruit CRM plug as we're going midway through. But as I always highlight, I'm not just saying that these features are great, because I use this as my own ATS and CRM every day. So one of the things we've just been talking about, sort of managing the relationships, the expectations between candidates and clients, just as important. And I'm massive on relationship building with any recruitment work that I do, and my coaching and training. And this is where I've really enjoyed and seen major benefits in using Recruit CRM as my major tool and platform, because it's just little things like how it helps me with candidate tracking, client management. I actually used to use a different CRM for my coaching and training business development. And because it helps me manage the relationship so well, I've moved it all onto Recruit CRM. Things like the task reminders, the automated follow-ups I can do, all these things. We just mentioned some of it then, keeping in touch with your candidates, especially, so important. And juggling lots of stuff. We always are in recruitment. It's basically making me more time efficient. And I know a lot of people say this about it too. There's loads of amazing AI powered features. One of the major things for me that helps me is the fact that if you need help with anything, you can go on live chat and speak to somebody and get a response from a real person straight away. Again, it's saving me time, allowing me to go out and win business, build relationships, support my candidates. So no brainer for me. If you want to get a demo, there is a link in the podcast caption. But all you really need to do is go to recruitcrm.io. You can learn more about the platform and book a free demo. So back to questions. So we've talked about mismatched expectations, and they are common in rack to rack, in recruitment in general, but we're talking about rack to rack today. How do you handle situations where recruiters or agencies that you've supported are disappointed with the process?
Disappointed with what, my process, or?
Well, we all know, right, that, and I've had it happen when I didn't do rep to rep. We all know that when you're sometimes working with people, you're doing your normal process. It's not that you've done anything wrong as such or purposely wrong, but sometimes when we're maybe working with new clients or whatever part of the relationship, we can sometimes work away and people might not be happy with it. And it's not that we've done a bad job as such. We've not purposely done it, but sometimes there's situations where people are disappointed with that process. So I know for a lot of maybe newer recruiters as well in the rack to rack space, that can feel like something that's quite daunting. And I sometimes blame ourselves or be too hard on ourselves. So how do you sort of handle those sort of situations?
I think at the end of the day, everyone's human, right? We're going to get on with some people more than we're going to get on with other people. We're not going to get on with some people. It's just the way it is sometimes. A lot of the time, though, I think it comes down to the communication. Like, you need to be discussing like what that process is going to look like, what each stage is going to entail. And you need to be communicating with both parties, and both parties need to be aware of exactly what's going on there. Obviously, something might go wrong, like your candidate might take another offer. The client then might just be like, why have you gone and done that? I thought they were bought in, I thought they were interested. And sometimes it's just the case. Again, especially with your more junior recruiters, they'll jump into one of the first offers that they get rather than seeing another process through. But it's just the nature of the beast sometimes. At the end of the day, if an interview process is too long-winded, if there's like more than 3 stages, sometimes it's often a little bit unnecessary. Obviously for your more senior candidates, if it's really senior director or something, then fair enough, like 4 stages might be like reasonable. But I think more than that, people naturally, they'll just get turned off. And I guess at that point, it's up to us as recruiters, as rec to recs, to be communicating that with the client as well, and just saying like, look, other companies are flying through their process and they get into offer stages. So are you going to be able to be flexible with this process for this person if you really want them? So I think the bottom line is it just comes down to that communication, really.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. If somebody was considering stepping into the rack to rack space, because there could be some people listening thinking, do you know what, I want to change sector that I recruit for, or we could have some newbies listening that want to get into rack to rack. What skills or traits do you think are essential for success as a rack to rack consultant?
Ooh, it's a good question, that, Kate. It's a really good question. I think what people need is you've got to be relatable in some sort of way, right? Like I said, I guess you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to make people aware from like a personal brand point of view. And when I say that, I don't even just mean on LinkedIn. I just mean just in general, everybody that you speak to, like you carry your personal brand everywhere you go, in your face-to-face meetings with your clients. When you're on the phone with your candidates, like you're carrying your personal brand everywhere you go. So as long as you're someone that's quite open, and I guess, and like you put yourself out there and you're making yourself relatable, and then I guess the recruiters will understand you a bit more and trust you a little bit more, just because they'll see you for what you are. Do you know what I mean? So I guess, yeah, you've got to focus on that personal brand. As long as you value that personal brand and you are quite a relatable person, you put yourself out there, then I think yeah, you'll be off on the right foot when it comes to that. I think I'm just trying to navigate my way around this question, and I'm thinking, how would a successful rec to rec differ to a typical recruiter, really? It's such a good question.
I suppose, and what you were talking about, the personal brand in there.
Yeah.
I suppose really what we can take from this is, and you might add something that is particular for rec to rec, is actually we are no different. What you need as a recruiter in general is actually no. Yes, we are recruiting for a different sector, but it's no different to an engineering recruiter and a, I don't know, IT recruiter. You know what you look for. It's that personal branding, I would agree, is super important, but it's important for all recruiters, isn't it, really? Being present in your market and seen and attracting people in and all of that stuff. So yeah, maybe that's what we can take from this, is unless you think there's anything particular. But I was thinking as you were answering it then, I was thinking, well, actually, don't we all just need the same sort of skills, really?
Exactly. I guess you need to be a sponge within your space as well. And again, a typical recruiter would also need to be a sponge in their space, as long as you're knowledgeable and you understand what's happening. You've got a good grasp of who all of the businesses that are out there. So I've had it before where recruiters have reached out to me, or I've reached out to recruiters, and they're telling me what processes they're in, and I'm like, whoa, you need to be careful for X, Y, and Z reasons. This is what I've heard. Go and do a little bit more research, use your market insight in, and you'll be able to figure out and find out what I'm telling you is the truth. That sort of thing. Like, as long as you've got those insights and you understand your space, your sector, your niche, and you're bringing that value, then at the end of the day, people are again gonna want to work with you for these reasons, really. And I guess that it makes us no different to other recruiters. So yeah, I guess you hit the nail on the head when you said that.
And I guess one skill we would really like them all to use is look at people's profiles before you send a message, please. Please. Yeah, I think I actually got another one today, but it wasn't from what I can see anyway. It wasn't from a rec to rec, but yeah, I think I follow some rec to recs on LinkedIn, other than yourself, that or really invest in the personal branding, and I think that I'm reading their posts and like yours as well, and thinking, yeah, I trust this person just from reading this stuff. That's what I think any recruiter needs to be doing, that, where people can relate, they feel they can trust you, they feel like they're getting to know you. So I think, yeah, for any experience level in rec to rec, the personal branding, effective communication as well, really key. Relationship building, trust, yeah, like any recruiter.
Yeah, of course. I guess it just comes down to whether or not you want to be more hated than the typical recruiter. If you don't, space.
You want to prove people wrong more, go into rec to rec, basically. But no, I think there is so much opportunity in rec to rec, because if you want to make a mark in an industry for being great at what you do, what better space to do it in?
Yeah, agreed.
That's what I think. Okay, well, look, we come to the end of the podcast. Apologies again for the consistent coughing, but yeah, my throat's been playing up today. So hopefully next episode I'll be slightly more back to normal. AJ, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really good to get your insights into the rec to rec industry. We've covered the good, we've covered the bad, we've covered the ugly as well. So it's all been really interesting. To anyone listening, if you want to connect with AJ, which I would strongly suggest that you do, LinkedIn's probably the best way, would you say?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so
Reed.
Say that again.
So go onto my LinkedIn. My name's AJ Reid. AJ, just the letters A and a J, and then Reid, REID. That's me at Equanimity.
And we'll even drop the link in the podcast caption, so we're making it even easier for you. Also, check out Equanimity Search on LinkedIn as well. Give that page a follow. If you are looking for your recruitment cycle to be made easier and to utilize some of the tools that I talked about midway through, as I mentioned, all you need to do is go on recruitcrm.io, or there's going to be links in the caption that you can follow as well. It's so easy to get a free demo book, so definitely go and do that. But thank you for tuning in to the Recruitment Podcast by Recruit CRM and hosted by me. Next episode, I've got Ant McCormack on with me. And we are going to be going into something I have been seeing has been improving in recruitment, but it's definitely still got some work to be done on it. Collaboration. So I'm talking about collaboration between recruiters and not just in your agency. So some of you might think this is nuts because you might be a bit more old school, but trust me, come back and listen to the next episode because Ant has majorly capitalized off this and has grown a brilliant agency. So I will see you next time. Thank you for listening.